Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well today. And welcome back to the channel for the paranormal side. Before we get into today's paranormal side, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters of Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's take that walk on the paranormal side. Shall we? Alright guys, so I had my last treatment today. Feeling alright now. I'll definitely feel it tomorrow. But in about a week, I'll know if everything went smoothly and how it was supposed to go. So, for the next couple of days, I may be a little tired. But I'll get the snap back. Also, I've got an interview coming up in the next couple of days too, with a pretty terrifying subscriber Dogman encounter. So anyway, on to the paranormal side. Today's first experience on the paranormal side. Let's start like this. First of all, I am a big fan of the paranormal world, which I thought was sci-fi. And I always thought it was fake until about 5 years ago. Since then, I started having paranormal problems every day. From everyday sleep paralysis, moving objects in my home only when I was home alone. I saw several times at the end of a hallway, right at the top of the ceiling, something staring at me that didn't want to move until I checked with a flashlight or just walked into it. I've heard various blunt knocks on the door. I heard running around the house and in the house, mostly in the attic. When I played games, there was always something running outside of my room at the door, since the door of my room is to my left and fits in a line of sight. When I look at the monitor, just something rushes by and is very loud. This was rarely happened when my parents are home. I'm mostly 80% alone. So such things happen relatively common. It happens not only in the house, but also in public places. I see figures that do not look human at all. In the forest, I used to feel that someone was following me. The nights are much worse because I have to experience night paralysis, which is much worse than paralysis during the day. For some, I don't think they are paralyzed. I think I fainted and woke up after the events. Mostly the feeling of sleep paralysis, something really bizarre. I see dead people I knew, I see demons, I saw the devil a couple of times. It didn't look like those photos from the internet, but I knew it was the devil. I saw people I am good with but are alive. I've seen a lot. The feeling I get is like something is taking my soul out. My body is immovable. And some strong force is trying to pull all my insides and soul out of me. But I also fight against it. I can last for 10 minutes. Weirder is when I fall asleep on my side and the physical contacts between me and these demons happen. Mostly they pull me, so I lie on my back. And then I get the feeling like my soul is coming out of my body. Something like a strong wind, but not blowing in me. It's blowing in the opposite direction, outside of me. They whispered to me a few times something incomprehensible. I couldn't breathe a few times. When I fell asleep on my stomach, I was still paralyzed. And it happened. Just feeling like someone had stabbed me in the back and slowly pulled it out and stabbed me again. The presence of the devil himself happened twice. Once I fell asleep alone at home in the living room and woke up listening to someone do something in the kitchen. Thought my mom was back from work and I just slept for a long time. Then I just fainted. I woke up and in front of me stood this figure of a demon I had seen before. He dragged me by my legs and then I fainted again and woke up. With the moved couch, sofa, and table in front of me was the devil. From the very sight of me, it was unpleasant and fear pouring into my bones. And for the first time I experienced true fear. He was looking at me and suddenly that feeling started again. Then I fainted and woke up, saw him and myself standing next to him without any expression on my face. Then I finally woke up all sweaty and realized that the kitchen door was open, even if they were being closed every time you get in or out. The couch and everything else was moved a bit, and footsteps were heard in another part of the house. I quickly left the house, informed my parents, and came back later. Sleep paralysis did not stop happening. In fact, they were worse and more painful. A couple of days ago, I experienced the worst. That feeling and pressure hurt my body in several ways. When I looked at the figure, I heard my ribs literally break. I woke up and felt a sharp pain in my chest. I was too tired and I had to keep sleeping, but luckily nothing happened afterward. Religion teacher told me I should start praying more often. Nothing has helped and I can't get rid of this. I will gladly take any advice from anyone. Please help. Today's second experience on the paranormal side. Shortly after my divorce, I sold my home. My best friend and I had found an apartment in a 3-unit building. We had the entire second floor. Below us was a 1 and 2 bedroom unit. None of them were occupied because the landlord had just recently bought the place and was redoing it 1 unit at a time. I worked at a local bar and my roommate would come and hang out with me to cruise for women. Everything started off small. We would come home at like 2 in the morning and the smoke alarms would all be going off. The place had the kind that were hardwired, so if one went off, they all went off. The problem was that it was the alarm in the 2-bedroom, empty apartment that was going off. We would have to go into the basement and throw the breaker off to silence it. Once we turned the breaker on, they all stayed off until the next night. Sometime later, I'm not sure exactly how many weeks went by, I got up in the morning after having been kept awake by my roommate pacing and talking on the phone. He always did that when he was on the phone, no idea why. I asked who he was talking to so early or late in the day. It was around 3 in the morning. That's when this started. He looked me dead in my eyes and said he thought it was me on the phone. I heard his voice, and he heard mine. This happened quite often for a while, but the worst part happened a few months ago. I get chills even trying to type this out. I was sound asleep. My bed was pretty much dead center of the room. Something yanked on my leg and woke me up. I scanned the room and my eyes stopped at the corner nearest the door. It was eerily dark, almost darker than the rest of the room, and I could tell that something was in that darkness looking back at me. I was terrified and nothing really scares me. I could not find my voice to call out for my roommate, so I just laid there staring back at whatever was staring at me. This went on for almost an hour, and then I felt it leave. I no longer felt like I was being watched. Not long after that, the other 2 units became occupied and everything stopped. Even the smoke alarms going off on their own. Today's third experience on the paranormal side. Hey everyone, this happened to me last night, and I don't know how to explain it. For a bit of context, my father recently became ill, so I moved home to help out my mom for a while. I still have younger siblings and a grandparent living in the house, so I decided to stay with my parents' caravan out back. They only use it in the summer, so I thought I'd get some privacy. The caravan gets cold at night, so my dad gave me an electric heater to warm it up. But my mother is very worried and is worried that leaving it overnight could start a fire. I promise this is relevant. So last night I went to sleep, and at around 4 in the morning I heard banging on the window. I jumped up and opened the curtain, and my mom was standing there. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried something happened to my dad. But she was just there to tell me to turn the heater off. I said, "Great, thanks for waking me up for that," then tried to get back to sleep. This is where the weirdness begins. Just as I turn over, I hear a very faint crying. At first, I thought it was someone in the house, but it was coming from the direction of the shed behind the caravan. I think to myself, it's just some fox or animal, but it slowly starts getting louder. Not extremely loud, but loud enough that it's keeping me up. I fling the curtains open to scare whatever animal was out there, but it was no animal. A child-sized shadow thing was sitting against the shed, its head and its knees crying. I've never jumped up so fast in my life. I instantly turned all the lights on and ran back to the window, but it was gone, and the crying had stopped. I quickly jotted down all the features of it so I wouldn't forget, and I stayed up with all the lights on all night. I'm scared it'll come back. Does anybody know what this thing could be? Today's fourth experience on the paranormal side. When I was younger and inexperienced, I decided to go to a spot in my small town that was supposed to be haunted. Story goes, back in the 60s, a man and woman and 2 kids got into a major argument. She decides to leave with the kids. She packs up and left with the kids and began to head over a small bridge just south of town when she notices that her husband is coming after her in his vehicle. Outraged, he runs her off the bridge, killing her and the 2 children. She now wanders what used to be a river that had more water, looking for her kids. So my buddy and I are investigating there, and we don't hear anything, so we decide to go to the other side of the river. We were using EVP only at that time. A few hours we stayed there and didn't pick anything up. We went home and transferred the sound to a computer and plugged the computer into our television and heard a few sounds. One was at the time in the investigation when my buddy tripped over a stick poking out of the ground and you could hear a little girl giggle. The second was when we decided to move to the other side of the river and announced to the ghosts present that we were moving. And we heard the most eerie, slow-speaking voice of a little girl that said, "Please don't leave me." We weren't touched or harmed in any way. But after a while, we realized that we did not introduce ourselves and did not ask anything present to not follow or attach itself. The night after, my mother told me she was going to take a bath and asked if anyone had to use the restroom. My friends and I said no, and we continued to play our video game. Next thing we know, we heard screams coming from the bathroom. My stepfather ran into the bathroom, and my mother came out wrapped in a towel, mad and upset that we went ghost hunting, and she believed something was messing with her. She went to her room and got dressed and came back out. Said that her back was burning. I lifted up the back of her shirt to see my initials scratched into her back, KEH. At this time, I was a bit worried and frightened and told her to lay on the couch so I could keep an eye on her, as she said she was tired. She then woke up a few hours later, but didn't seem quite fully awake, almost as if she was in a trance, sweating profusely. Her hair was soaked from sweat, and she began to mumble weird things we couldn't understand, and beginning to say 666, drawing a pentagram in the air with her finger. I decided to look up a prayer, hoping this would help. I ended up finding the St. Michael prayer, and my friends and I began chanting the prayer. As we were chanting, she began screaming and cussing in a disembodied voice, and then suddenly dropped back down onto the couch and passed back out. She woke up like nothing had ever happened, and confused as we explained what happened to her. After time passed and nothing else happened, I decided to go to a friend's house who was a girl. As I headed there, I got a text message notification that read, "Where are you going?" You are not. I clicked on the notification to finish reading it, but the text message had vanished. I called my mother and asked if anyone from the house messaged me, and she said no, so ignore it. I went to my friend's. It was around 1 in the morning, so we went to her room and laid in bed, and she got up saying that she had to go to the restroom. As I lied there, I began hearing growling noises coming from her bedroom closet. When she got back, because I wasn't going to look, I asked if there was a dog in the closet or something, and she replied, "No, I don't own a dog. We can't have animals here." I was freaked out the rest of the night and didn't fall asleep until 4 in the morning, listening to see if I could hear anything else. After awakening, of course, I was really tired. I called my mom to make sure everything was okay, and she said nothing else happened while I was gone. And nothing has happened since. Moral of the story is don't meddle in things you don't understand, or have not studied, or prepared for. To this day, I'm still interested in ghost hunting and may still do so in the future, as I am now more educated on the subject and will take better precautions in the future. Today's fifth experience on the paranormal side. When I was 6 years old, just around the time my grandfather had passed away, I was sleeping in my sister's room as mine was being redecorated. My bed was facing the open door that was just next to the top of the stairs, so you could see anyone come up. One night I got this strange feeling and just couldn't seem to sleep. I started playing Pokemon on my Game Boy Color. A few seconds later, I heard the bottom step of the stairs creak and quickly shut off my Game Boy, as I believed it was my mom or stepdad coming up the stairs and did not want to get in any trouble. I lied down with my head facing the door to see who it was and if they were going to come in and check on us. As the person reached the top step, I see a black cowboy-shaped hat appear and come up the stairs. As the figure reached the top step, it's a tall shadow figure with what appeared to be a trench coat, cowboy hat, and a popped collar. The atmosphere in the room changed, and I'm almost frozen in place staring at the figure. I continue to stare, and shortly after, it looks into the room, and its red, beaming eyes make contact with mine. It felt like I almost had a smug smile as it walked in the direction of my room, being renovated by my parents' room. A few days later, in my newly renovated room, I had obtained my granddad's Commodore 64 and was playing around with a relative. I look over at the white door, and there's just a black shadow on the door, in the same shape at the figure. I moved around to see if it's my shadow and asked my relative to do the same. The shadow doesn't move. We turn the lights on to my room and off a couple times, and it eventually fades. We moved out of the house shortly after my granddad passed, and in my teens I told this to my mom, who turned pale. Not to frighten me, when I was younger, she recalled doors slamming behind her upstairs and footsteps running up and down the stairs. This house is where I also encountered seeing my granddad after he passed. He'd often come to the gate of the garden on his way back to work and say hi, and I recall seeing him stand there one final time after he passed, just smiling at me. I turned around to shout for my mom and looked back, and he was gone. I had constant nightmares in that house and always felt a negative atmosphere. Today's sixth experience on the paranormal side. It all started in the summer of 2010 when I was 5 and my family moved to a rather big city in Switzerland. We lived in a block building which was built in 2007, so it was fairly new at the time. Ever since I moved into there, I've experienced a lot of activity in this home, which is strange as it was just constructed. 2011 to 2014, every now and then me and my brother would see orbs floating around and transparent people staring at us. I was able to take a picture, which I am unable to upload as the file is on a 7-year-old hard drive, which I accidentally dropped, but I will try to explain it. It was a picture of the doorway in my home. The door was open, and in the doorway there was someone. A completely white person, no face, no eyes, nothing. Just a white flash in the shape of a person. Keep in mind that I didn't see the flash function for the picture. And there was a second picture, even more scary. I was 7 and really bored. My grandma just picked me up from school in her blue Mazda 3. I, for no reason, took out my 20FR, $24 MP3 player, which had a crappy camera, and made a photo of a huge underground garage we were in. There it is. A around 7 foot tall, completely black person, again with no face or anything except the eyes. It was standing right in front of my grandmother and staring down at her. 2015 to 2018, my brother and I were seeing lots of ghosts in the reflection of our windows, especially when studying. But in this time period, nothing more happened. Activities became so rare, I thought the ghosts were gone. 2020 to now, I've been hearing a lot of strange sounds coming from my room. Something even growled at me while I was playing Minecraft. Single player. I didn't have my headphones on as I was trying to listen to my brother, who had just got called by a call center scammer. Then right behind me, a growl like a werewolf. It still is one of the loudest sounds I had ever heard, but I was the only one who heard it this time. Day before yesterday, 1:15 in the morning. As I am only 15 years old, I live with my parents just like any other 15-year-old. So that night, I had to take a massive dump. Important note, there's a hallway connecting the kitchen to the bathroom. So I just finished and I was washing my hands. My brother, 16, comes bursting into the bathroom and locks the door. He said he heard a door opening and locked us in so we didn't get grounded for staying up so long. But it wasn't my mom, not my grandparents who live with us. It was something unexplainable. So 20 minutes have passed and we're still locked in. I can hear rustling like if someone was searching my jacket hanging in the same hallway as our bathroom. 30 minutes have passed. I hear footsteps and I'm freaked. 34 minutes later, my brother just unlocked the door and we're making a run for it. Since then, every night I've heard footsteps coming from the same room. Today's 7th experience on the paranormal side. So to start, I live in a super rural area and walk my dog outside in the dark every night. Tonight I was walking her later than usual and things felt very off. First we went outside and I walked no more than 2 feet away from the door and felt something wet under my foot. I checked my shoes and there was a slug. It didn't look like the normal slug, but I don't know what else to call it, just in the middle of my shoe. I have no clue how it got there because I knew it wasn't there when I put them on. As I'm trying to figure out what the heck is in my shoe, my dog starts freaking out and growling at the house across the street. She doesn't do this somewhat commonly because they have dogs that attacked her once. So I didn't think much of it and went inside to get another pair of shoes. I went back outside and was immediately struck with the feeling that something was wrong. The first time I was out, I heard a weird, quiet music, but just thought it was the neighbors playing something. This time the music was gone, but there was this high-pitched shriek periodically. Myself and my dog literally stopped. I just stopped and stood there for a minute listening. There was this periodic shriek and then this other sound, like a high-pitched bark, definitely not a fox. I know that sound and none of the dogs in the area bark like that. Every now and again, the worst part is everything gets silent. Now, if you live in the country, you know it's never silent, not even in the winter. I took a recording on my phone of the noises, but they weren't super loud, so it didn't pick them up. So I'm feeling a little weird, but I get scared easily, so I'll try to brush it off and let my dogs go to the bathroom. As soon as I stopped recording, my dog starts flipping out, hackles raised, growling, barking, and jumping at something behind us in the yard. She didn't have to tell me twice, so we ran for the door and went inside. I shut the door behind us and immediately felt relief. I felt like I was being chased trying to get to the door. My dog ran around the house and did a check out the windows to make sure everything was clear, I guess, and then I went to bed. I don't know what happened, but it scared the crap out of me. I'm hoping I'm just paranoid. Alright, sorry guys, I'm getting wiped. I wanted to have a little longer upload for the paranormal side, but there ain't no way I'm making it. I want to thank everybody for all of your support for the channel and myself. You guys are the best, truly are. Also, I'd like to encourage everyone to be kind to one another. And finally, may the Great Spirit watch over all of us, and may He guide us down that thing we call life. Until tomorrow, my friends, thank you.